Get ready to drop the puck, take a free throw, and step up to the plate. It's time for the Metro East Sports Podcast on lineupmedia.fm.
From the Lineup Media Studios, welcome to the Metro East Sports Podcast, season number 2, show number 33, recorded Monday, September 20th, 2021. Thanks, as always, to partners Cassens Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, Callaway Home Loans, Keller Williams Marquee, Jeb and Ginger Blassingame, Integrity Spine and Joint Center, and Front Office Fiduciary Network. We're talking all things sports in the Metro East. I'm Dave Leip. And as always, the guests make the show tonight, kicking it off with Steve Porter in just a minute here. Up next, guest number 2, Richie Skirball, Coach Rich Skirball, I should say, from Granite City, cross-country and track coach, current record holder still at SIU Edwardsville. And my third guest tonight will be current EHS number 1 running back, Jordan Bush. 4 weeks into the season, Jordan Bush is scoring touchdowns. The team is 2-2. Had a lot of success this year. Had a tough loss to O'Fallon. Jordan's going to come in here and talk about the rest of this season and give us some of his thoughts about the remainder of his junior campaign at Edwardsville. 3 things you can do to help. Number 1, subscribe to our podcast. It's free, and you love it. Number 2, follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Twitter, at Podcast Metro. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're easy to find. Follow us. Love that. Number 3, if you have a story idea, email me, mespdave@gmail.com. And don't forget that you can nominate a team for Integrity Spine and Joint Center Team of the Month. Could be a park and rec team, could be a middle school team, a high school team, you name it. To nominate a Team of the Month, send your suggestion to mespdave@gmail.com. Please put Team of the Month in the subject line. Okay. Guest number 1. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me back. It's been a while, but, boy, it's a pleasure to be here and talk to you all the time. You know, I followed your career and wrote stories about you, and I'm sure when you were a youngster, you sat on your grandpa's knee and he read stories that I wrote, you know, way back when you were a little toddler and all that.
Are we going to start the Steve's old jokes?
No, I just had to get that in.
I mean, if you want to tell us what it was like to sit next to Euripides in philosophy class, that's up to you, Steve.
No, I just had to start with one just to get us going, but we won't go back to Gutenberg and the printing press and all that stuff. So,
yeah, your career really took off. Journalism really took off with the invention of the printing press. So, congratulations.
Yeah, and you know, I covered those commandments too. I think there were 10 of them they put together, but I'm not sure where those tablets went.
All right, no more old jokes. All right, legendary sports scribe. You're in at least 3 halls of fame. You're in the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame, and you are a voting member in that. You're helping. Well,
I'm. I was the vice president of the IBCA Southwestern Illinois Committee, and our good friend Larry Graham passed away, and I'm sort of in charge of that now. And I'm also on the golf committee, and also on the legacy committee, where we go back and try to get people, particularly from the 50s and 60s, not my heyday, but anyway, from the 50s and 60s, who might have slipped through the cracks, and it's sort of like a veterans committee for basketball players. But the IBCA just had its Hall of Fame induction ceremony a couple weeks ago in Bloomington Normal. We had 34 people from this area. Now, it was 2 classes. Since last year's class, they didn't have a reception or a dinner because of COVID. So 34 people got through, and that's a testament to all the people around here who've devoted their lives to basketball. We're talking about coaches, career coaches, players, media, officials, friends of basketball. A couple of friends of basketball people, Mary Sue Patton and Debbie Pitts. But we're talking about people all through Southwestern Illinois. It's great to see these people enshrined. It was a long night since we did 2 classes, but a lot of success stories. There are really some remarkable people.
Shout out to Jeff Falkenberg,
Jeff Falkenberg,
who went in,
career coach, yes.
and also Christy Longnecker.
That's right.
Chickadance.
Yes, Dennis Chickadance' wife. She went in from Hardin Calhoun.
Dean Chickadance wife.
Dean, yes, Dean Chickadance. Yeah. She Dean was up there, and Dennis was up there too. Dennis
Right.
he's on our committee, and he's in as a friend of basketball, and we've got 7 or 8 people on our committee, and we cover all the areas, so we get we're well represented there.
It looks like a really cool event.
Oh, it is, and it's a statewide event, obviously, and there's people from Chicago to Cairo that are there, and they had I would say maybe close to 1,000 people.
Wow. And it's at the Bloomington.
At Illinois State University. They have it in the Redbird Arena. That's how big it is. They need the whole arena, and a lot of coaches went in. A lot of players, a lot of officials. It's just great to see everybody, and especially to see them be rewarded for their success.
Yeah, that's cool. So you are retired after a 40-year career as the sports editor at the Telegraph, but you are still keeping your hand in sports.
Oh yeah,
with things like this.
Yes, I'm always a man on the move, a guy in motion, I guess you could say. I'm on 6 or 7 different committees. The Gallatin Committee. In the Riverbend area for picking the basketball player of the year, and we'll have our 75th annual awards dinner next March. And that committee, it used to be the Exchange Club, but the Exchange Club folded, so we renamed it the Gallatin Awards with some help from John Simmons, and that goes back to 1946. That's even a little before my time, but that award is older. That group is older than the NBA, believe it or not. The NBA started later that year in 1946. So
Wow.
The Gallatin Awards Committee is older than the NBA.
And that's in March?
That'll be in March in Alton. And
Where?
That'll be at the old Holiday Inn Hotel there in Alton. And coming up on October 8th, or Friday, we have the Larry Graham Celebration of Life at Arlington course outside of Granite City. Larry passed in 2020, and they never really had a celebration of life for him, but it's going to be at 6 o'clock that night. I'm emceeing the event, and there'll be a number of speakers to tell stories about Larry. I tell a lot of stories about Larry, and some of them are true. And there'll be some golf during the day. It'll be sort of casual golf if people want to play during the day at Arlington. So that'll be a great day to reminisce, and it seems like I'm a good reminiscer.
Yeah. Larry and I taught together at Oakville before I came over to Edwardsville. So I knew him when I came over here. I didn't know he was a state championship basketball coach. He was the basketball coach at Oakville at the time, but I had no idea. And then when I started coaching over here, his son played tennis for Granite City.
Right, that's right. Larry won 2 state titles at Madison, also had a 4th, did a fantastic job at SIUE. He's the winningest basketball coach with number of wins in Cougar basketball history. So he's really missed, and he did a great job running the committee. I'm trying to follow in his footsteps and carry on the tradition.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job. How did you get your start in journalism? I know that you're a 1969 graduate of Triad High School.
Triad High, yes. About the 5th grade, and we're talking the early 60s, I was playing some sports, Corey League baseball, a little basketball and that. I just got the bug that I wanted to do some writing and do some announcing, and I would study statistics and follow a lot of things. And a guy named Paul Levo, I don't know if you remember him, he was official. He's now deceased. But he also wrote a column for the Troy Tribune. And he said, watch out for this young guy named Stevie Porter. He's in the 5th grade, but he knows his sports. And just something like that, just that little throwaway line, that sort of inspired me a little bit to say, I'm going to go into this, and I found out I didn't have a face for radio, or maybe I do have a face for radio. I'm not really sure what it is. But then when I went to SIUE after Triad, I was in both. I worked at the radio station. I worked with some great guys, Dwayne Stats. Now, Dwayne Stats is the play-by-play guy of the Tampa Bay Rays. Bill Land. Bill's going in the SIUE Hall of Fame this year. He's the play-by-play guy for the San Antonio Spurs. All kinds of guys like that.
Plaschke?
No, Bill Land.
No, but what about
Bill Plaschke was after me. He was a
Okay.
couple years. And Bill is probably the most successful writer to go through there. I mean, he's the lead columnist for the Los Angeles Times now.
Yeah.
But we had some great people go through SIU at those days. And while I was working there at school, I worked at the school paper, the Alestle, which at that time came out 4 days a week. Now it's just 1 day, 4 days a week for school. So every day you were putting out a paper. And there was a job open at the Collinsville Herald, and that's where I started. And they had just opened Fletcher Gym at that time. That's how far back that was. Fletcher Gym had just opened. Virgil Fletcher was the coach. So my first job is covering Virgil Fletcher and the K-Hawks, and they're playing East St. Louis and Pick Dana, and they're playing Alton, and they're playing Granite, and they're playing Edward. What an induction and an indoctrination, I guess, to writing. And I'll never forget those days. It was wonderful covering that. I mean, Virgil was one of the best coaches of all time. Pick was a good coach, but a great quote and one of the best showmen of all time. And just learned a lot from watching people and seeing how they, writers basically are people who observe things. A guy told me once, he said, you don't learn anything by talking. You learn by listening and watching, and that's true. And then from there, I went to the Telegraph, December 1973, and spent 40 years there, and then basically retired. And John Simmons bought the Advantage, which was a weekly paper in Alton, wanted to know if I wanted to work there part-time. I said, yeah, I'll try it for a year, and I stayed 3 years. And in 2016, I got done, and that's 45 years. That's enough. But now I can't stay away from it. I'm on Facebook and Twitter too much probably. But I love, if I get information, putting it out there, and I hope people see it and enjoy it. And not that it's breaking news or anything, but I just like people to be informed and know about people they've heard of or thought of or wondering what happened to them or what's going on in the area of sports. I just enjoy doing it. It's in my blood.
It sounds like, and it feels like, you've taken to social media.
Well, I enjoy it. I mean, I still have a passion for it. And I think any job you do.
Not just the sports, but the social media.
Oh, the social media.
I mean, there's plenty of people that are like, I'm not messing with Facebook. But you seem to like it, and Twitter.
Oh, I do like it, and I do like. Now, I don't get into posting heavy things on there or political things. I like light things. I like information, bring a little laughter, a little joy to people. And maybe something where they say, well, I didn't know that, or I thought that, but I wasn't sure about that. Just, it's sort of the curious nature of being a writer. You're always curious about things. And people are naturally curious. You know that from being a teacher.
I think sometimes curiosity gets beaten out of these kids.
Where
they're not encouraged. They're not encouraged to ask questions, but that's what I do. I'm interested in you. I want to ask you questions.
Well, that's what's good. That's how you learn things. And sometimes you think things are one way, and then you ask somebody, and you find out as you go on that it's not really that way. It's a different way. That's how you learn things. That's how life is always about adapting and adjustments, and that's how you don't stay in one spot all the time. That's why I say I'm always a guy in motion and on the move, because you're always learning. The older you get, the more you realize, the less you know, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And you always want to learn something from somebody. Now, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because a lot of things on the internet aren't true. But the more you know or talk to people about things, the more you know things are true and aren't true.
So when you want to learn, it's when you're older. And when you need to learn, when you're younger, you don't want to learn.
Yeah.
You want to do everything but listen.
Well, it's like when you're younger, you want to be older, and when you're older, you want to be younger. That's sort of how life is. It's a little ironic.
What old Percy Shelley say? We look before and after and pine for what is not.
That's true.
There you go.
That's true. You're the English guy here.
Yeah, I remember that. So did anybody ever speak condescendingly to you and say, Steve, I see you're doing some pretty good journalistic work, but why don't you graduate, put on your big boy pants, and join us in the newsroom? Did anybody ever take that attitude with you?
No. I mean, you have run-ins with people sometime, but I like doing sports so much, and people basically told me, you're built for sports. It's not like you should transition to news or you should transition to doing feature stories. You're a sports writer. And I said, of course I am. That's what I like doing. That's what my passion is. Just like you're a tennis coach. That's what your passion is. Somebody wouldn't come up to you and Dave and say, Dave, I think you should be the football coach.
Yeah, people tell me that all the time. They're like, you should be good at something by now. You need to try something else, Dave. They're always trying to find other careers for me.
But isn't it nice to know you can be, at least if you don't consider yourself good at something, appreciated by people for what you do? And I think that's a little bit of the teacher in me. I think I would have been a teacher if I wouldn't have been a writer. And what I get the most joy out of is seeing people I know that have come after me, maybe people I've worked with or known along the way, be successful. And maybe I had a little influence or impact on them. And I think you could speak to this, being a teacher. You probably get one of your biggest thrills out of see people who you've taught go on to bigger and better things and become successful. And even if you didn't have a great impact on them, just maybe you did have some kind of influence on them, and they were in your class one time, and maybe they learned one thing that they've carried on with them through.
Absolutely. Who are some of these people that you worked with and taught during your 40 years? I know a few.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the Telegraph, I worked with Pete Hayes and Greg Shawshak, and they're both still there. Louis Korak. Louis does some part-time work at the Telegraph. He does work for the Blues now.
He's got like 40,000 Twitter followers.
Oh,
Come
yeah.
on. He's big time.
Louis is NHL.com uno numero.
I'm glad I was nice to him before he was super famous. I hope he'll still be nice to me and take my calls. I don't know. I haven't had any contact.
Lou's a great guy.
Agreed.
And I talk to Matt Camp all the time. I talk to Bill Roseberry, Scott Marion. I'm not saying I influence all these people, but
I am.
You
did.
These people are my, I consider them my friends, and I just, hope somewhere along the way that maybe I encouraged them. The biggest problem today, I think, in just generally, is people don't encourage people to follow their dream, or you're doing a good job, or I think you can do a good job, or that was a good story. People get discouraged easily, and nobody encourages them enough.
I'm trying to change that. I try to encourage kids every day.
Yeah, well, sometimes, you might see somebody that's you think is lost and maybe needs a little help, and maybe you can help them, maybe you can't. But if you see something there, and you know that from years of teaching, and I know that from years of writing, this person could be pretty good. This person could be real good. Let's see how far they can go. Let's see where they want to take it. Let's see where they want to take themselves.
Kind of like when I suggested to a young guy, you know what? I think maybe, they're looking for somebody to call the hockey games at EHS. Go call the hockey games. See if you want to do sports journalism, Matt Camp.
Yeah.
And that's how he got started doing his thing, and now he's fantastic. And I know you've had a very positive impact on all those guys. And I think it's cool that you've gotten a kick out of that throughout your career. In addition to the actual work, was inspiring your peers, your colleagues. That's cool.
Well, I think that's a little bit of the teacher in me that, and all those people I consider my friends, and I'm glad to see them do well. I like to see people succeed, and I like to see them be rewarded for their success, because too often We talk about people, they can't do that, derogatory things about them. They'll never amount to anything. I don't really believe that. I think people can be what they want to be if they're willing to do it, willing to, do what it takes, willing to sacrifice, and again, willing to listen.
Accept some criticism.
Yeah, accept criticism.
And
Right.
keep showing up.
Right.
Keep showing up.
Well, that great line from one of your heroes, Winston Churchill, he said, success is never final, failure's never fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And that's true. You have to go on every day. You have to adapt. You have to adjust. And that's life. At least that's what I found out.
The grind.
Yes.
Winston Churchill would have made a hell of a coach.
He would have. Well, he did a pretty good job coaching the British in 1940.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Are you a fan who got paid to talk about games?
I'm a fan to a degree, but I don't want to be a cheerleader, or I didn't want to be a cheerleader or a homer. I wanted to sort of break down things where people could understand them and what happened and why it happened. And, when you win, there's usually a reason why you've won. And when you lose, there's usually a reason why you lost. And I know talking with one coach one time, he said, I don't have a fear of losing, but I'm surprised when I lose, which I thought was interesting. And another coach told me one time, he said, I don't yell at my players much because I'm not motivated by fear. And I don't want my players to be motivated by fear. I want them to be motivated by success and, be part of something successful, that they could be successful, the team's going to be successful. I don't want them acting like they have to be scared of me or fearful of me. I want them to be respectful, but I want them to reach the best they can be.
You're talking about coaches. You're talking about awesome coaches. Who were some of the best? You already mentioned one, Virgil Fletcher. And what a lot of people don't realize about Mr. Coach Fletcher was he was a football coach.
And a track coach. And when he coached Collinsville football, they were good. They weren't great. I mean, they didn't usually beat East St. Louis or Belleville, but they had respectable years. Looking for coaches, sometimes all you have to do is look at the record. Look at East St. Louis Lincoln in basketball, won 4 state titles in the 1980s under Benny Lewis, 3 in a row. Benny played the right guys, and he played them all the time. He knew what he was doing. Sometimes I think coaches and writers try to make things too difficult. It's really simple, isn't it? I mean, you follow the plan, you do your best, and there's the outcome.
And you follow that plan all year long.
Yeah.
You don't just decide on Thursday that you want to win on Friday.
Right.
Where are you in July?
Well, it's the same in life, too. You don't decide the day before your big test, well, I think I'm going to study for it today. I haven't studied the whole year.
Yeah.
You should have a plan for your life, too, and just follow it. Now, you can always change it as things go on, and you might get into something where you're not really happy with it or you don't like it. Well, there's no reason you can't change what you're doing. I really want to do this, or I want to go into art, or I want to go into music, or I want to be a writer. Well, take that chance and try it and see where it gets you.
Go volunteer.
Go volunteer.
That's right. That's where I tell the kids all the time. If you want to start in a certain field, if you have no experience, if you don't know anybody, go volunteer first. Show them how awesome you are, how you're always going to show up and you're always going to look your best and you're going to try your hardest and you're going to get along with everybody.
And hang around the best people, too. Hang around, if you're an athlete, hang around the best coaches. Not necessarily just the coaches of your sport, but coaches of other sport, coaches that have had success. You can learn a little from everybody. I'm sure you did, Dave.
Oh.
And my philosophy, too, you learn a little from each person. Sometimes you learn what not to do, but most times you learn what to do.
You know who said the same thing was Gene Baker. When he was in here talking about his career and what he learned, he said, I was going to learn from everybody. I was going to learn from the typing teacher and the basketball coach. I was going to take a little bit of something from everybody. And I hear you saying the same thing there. Any other awesome coaches you want to mention
Well,
at this
you know,
point?
since you're at Edwardsville's had so many great coaches through the years, and it's obvious and evident by the success they've had. You know, Mike Waldo, Laurie Blade, Tim Doherty, Tom Pyle, Dick Gerber, Dave Leip. Did I say Dave Leip?
Nope.
Yeah.
But you're mentioning to me coaches who won. I want to know about coaches because I know that they're out there who maybe this coach loses, finishes middle of the pack. On his best years, finishes 4th in the conference. But you know what? This coach is so great to work with because I think the number one thing is return the phone call from the media.
Oh, yeah.
How many coaches would just never return your phone call?
Oh, and some coaches, after they lost a game,
Wouldn't call you back.
well, not call you back. They wouldn't come up and talk to you. They'd leave or hide in the locker room. You know, you have to accept. You don't have to like it, but you have to accept losing with winning. I mean, it happens. You're going to lose.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose.
Right.
You don't want to lose often, but it's
Right.
going to happen. And if it happens, there's a reason why. And maybe the other team was better that day. Sometimes that happens. Kids don't understand that. They think we should have won. Maybe you were good and the other team was better. Or maybe you weren't very good and the other team was good.
One of my favorite sayings is, other people are smart too.
Oh, yeah, and other people can do things. You know, the best coaches I know get their team prepared for whomever the opponent is. Even if it's an opponent they should beat handily, they will say, you know, this team can do this, and this guy on this team can do this. We have to watch out for this, not just, oh, we're just going to steamroll this team. You know, that's where you get in trouble.
Can you answer this question? Which games did you dread? Because there would be a particular type of game, and if I were in your shoes, where I would be like, oh, don't make me cover this.
Well, not dreaded, but maybe you knew you couldn't win at if you had rivalry games. Like Alton played Marquette, Roxana played Wood River, CM played Roxana or Wood River, and whoever won, got the accolades. Whoever lost didn't. And if one team won, somebody from the team that lost would say, well, you just favor that team. No. I remember one guy said, well, you just cover us when we lose. And I said, well, I really don't have an idea if you're going to win or you're going to lose, but if you know you're going to lose ahead of time, please let me know and I won't come to the game. But those were the toughest ones because as a writer, sometime you're looked at as like official. All the officials for this team or for that team. This writer, he always writes good things about this school, but not about that school. And I tried to be as fair and honest as I could be, and not hide behind anything either. If I had something to say, I would say it, and then after I said it, I'd go talk to the coach afterwards, and try to explain why I said this. He may not agree, but I think they were coaches and other people respected you when you sat down and talked with them about why you did something. Because communication's a big thing, especially you talk about social media, and we joke a lot on social media, but you can get jokes and all kinds of things mixed up. I always put little signs of winking and that on there to show it's a joke. Some people, you think you tell a joke and they don't think you're joking, and they get really upset. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know what you mean, and it makes you kind of want to quit joking because you don't want to give people a chance to be offended because there are people that are looking for a chance to be offended. Did you experience that?
Oh, yeah. Well, they don't.
Especially when they lose, like you said.
And sometimes they don't understand what you say, too. But I don't know if I can ever stop from joking.
Yeah.
Because I do like to make people smile and make people laugh and, bring out the joy in people. I think that's one of the benefits of this job. Not necessarily when somebody tells you, oh, that was a good story or, you did a good job. It just, man, I like reading that. And then you had the other ones. Sometime they'd say, yeah, I saw your picture in the paper. And you're waiting to say, okay, did you read the story? No, I didn't read the story, but I saw your picture in the paper.
That's great. I was going to say, if I were in your shoes, I would dread the outdoor November, December playoff soccer, football, freezing cold. Oh my gosh. When you have to stand there and you're covering it and the game goes to overtime.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
There's been some wintry falls, especially those playoff games and the state finals. One time, we're at Illinois State at Normal, and I don't know if you've been to Illinois State, the football stadium. The wind blows in from all directions, and you get it east, west, north, south. And then it was at Northern Illinois in DeKalb, and that was one of the coldest places on earth. So yeah, since you brought up that point, I prefer indoor sports. Although in the spring it's nice, track and baseball when it's outside. But
there you go.
Yeah. I think when you're covering a game, sometimes too hot is worse than too cold.
Yep.
Too cold is worse than too hot, I should say.
Best press box locally?
Well, for basketball, I'm sort of I like the Collinsville one, simply because you sit upstairs, in Virgil Fletcher Gym. You know where the press box is? I got a story to tell you in that if you got a minute.
Let's hear it.
Well, I first started working on Collinsville, there was no press box, and I went down. I was going to sit at the scorer's table. Nope, no room for the media here. So I was going to sit behind there. Nope, those are all seats for season ticket holders. So you're on your own for looking for a place to sit. So I'm looking upstairs. Well, the one side, there are bleachers behind what could be a press area, so I don't want to sit there because there'll be fans right behind me. The other side, there was a wall. And I think, I'll go up, maybe up here and see what this is like. So I'm walking up there, no chairs, of course, because nobody was sitting up there. And I went around the corner, and there's a band room. And there's a guy in there. I guess he was the band director. And I said, do you have any chairs in here? And he said, well, you need a chair for it. I said, well, I'd like to sit out here. I think it'd be a good place to sit and watch the games. He goes,
he asked you why you needed a chair?
Yeah. And band director. Okay.
Yeah.
No offense, band director.
No offense.
So he had one of those little desks, those old-time desks where you put your pad on, you sit down. So I brought the one desk out and sat there by myself. The next game, Collinsville was playing, I think, a team from St. Louis, and some St. Louis writers came over, and they said, where's the press box? I said, well, if I can get a couple more chairs out of there, we'll put them next to here. One thing led to another. Then there were 4 chairs. Then there were 8. Then Joe May started doing the games on radio. He got a table out of there. They put a table up, and they hooked in. All of a sudden, we had a little press area. Years later, Frank Batole, who was the AD, took all those chairs out, and he put a table all the way across there, and that officially became the press area. And now that's been the press area at Collinsville for almost 50 years. So you never know, a little ingenuity sometimes.
There you go. You started the trend there. What does it take to be the best local sports writer in the business?
Well, first of all, you have to know what's going on. You have to be able to write, and you have to be able to communicate with people, and not just the coaches. You talk to the players too. When I first started, a lot of the writers didn't talk to the players, and sometimes you had to ask permission of the coach. Could I talk to, Joey here? He's the star of the game. Well, I don't know. Then after a while, I built up enough rapport for him I could do it. Now it's commonplace.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes the writers want to talk to the players more than the coaches, which is fine because that shines a light on the players. And who knows, that might be the biggest, if they're not a star, that might be the biggest thing they ever do in high school, that one game, that their one shot of glory, so to speak. So, things have changed a lot and now, it's so hard for writers because they're taking photographs too. They have to put stuff on social media. Back then, I just wrote a story. I didn't take pictures, and you have a deadline for a newspaper, and we had a newspaper every day. So every day you're doing something.
Would it be harder now? Because today, if you're going to be in sports journalism, like you said, you got to be managing social media content. You have to be taking videos, taking pictures, using your iPhone.
Well, it is harder.
Harder?
It's harder because, A, you have to do more, and B, there are fewer people doing it. I mean, when I was sports editor of the Telegraph, we had 5 full-time people working there and photographers. Now there's 2 full-time people at the Telegraph.
Why is that?
Because of cutbacks through the years.
But
Yeah, and newspapers haven't, and it's not only a Telegraph; it's everywhere. Belleville used to have 5 or 6 people working. They might have 1 now. Matt is basically the only guy at the Eye that is full time in sports. So,
Scott Marion.
well, Scott, yes, Scott is full time, but he does a lot of news now too, I believe. But he does some sports, but it's not the same as it used to be, and I'm sort of sad to see that because, on Saturday mornings people would tell me they'd get up to check the Friday night scores, whether it's in football or basketball or whatever, to read the paper and see what's going on.
I remember checking out your Friday night predictions
Oh yeah, well,
for local high school football.
on Friday, yeah,
right?
yeah, we had 5 guys and we put predictions on there on Friday morning, and sometimes maybe a little snappy comment or something.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
yeah, and people really like that.
And you kept track of your yearly things, and you would have a guest person in each week.
yes,
See, I've been a fan of yours for a long time.
yeah, what 50, 60 years probably. Yeah. We used to. It was fun doing that. People get excited. Well, you didn't pick us to win this week. Well, of course we didn't. And we had a lot of fun with it. And the other thing, and this too, you have to have a tough hide and be able to laugh at yourself. And you can't get. You have to accept criticism and just let things roll off your back. Sometimes that's the way it is.
I got one more question for you, but first I got to talk about my friends at Cassens Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. Thanks to partners Cassens Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the #1 place to purchase a vehicle in the Metro East. If you're in the market for a new or a pre-owned car, check out Cassens inventory in person, where they've been for 25 years, or online at cassens.com. Cassens has earned the highest ratings for customer service. Their expert staff is committed to making your car buying experience enjoyable, including convenient on-site financing. I've purchased 4 vehicles there. My daughter drives an IU Red Jeep Cherokee, and my wife and I are on our 2nd Jeep Grand Cherokee. With over 80 years of experience in the Metro East, Cassens is the clear-cut leader for quality, service, and customer satisfaction. Go see Steve, Cliff, Holly, Greg, Bob, Mike, Tony, or Trent today. How about that?
That's pretty good.
Does it make you want to go buy a car?
4 of them.
4.
Not all at the same time, I hope.
Nope. We bought 2 of them in one night, though. We bought a truck and a minivan in one night. We love those vehicles.
Well, I know who makes the big bucks here then.
You got to be able to get around town. I don't think big. I think big bucks are pretty obvious that I'm not making those. Last question, and then I want to invite you back again real soon. I want to talk about it. Let's do a high school basketball preview.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah,
Where
that
we
sounds great.
Go through the conferences and talk about the teams and the players to beat.
And another good thing with that would talk about the conferences themselves, how schools have changed
Yes.
through the years. You talk about a school like O'Fallon that used to be a small school, it's a big school. And a school like East Alton Wood River that
Right.
used to be a big school that's a small school. That would be something to talk about too sometime.
And they've shifted conferences, and they've
Oh,
joined the
sure.
Cahokia Conference, and the Cahokia Conference has had major shifts as well. Was your career what you thought it was going to be?
I didn't know what it was going to be. So that's a tough question to answer. I just went out and did things that I thought were the best and was right, and I enjoyed every minute of it. What I enjoyed the most was the diversity of it, because on Friday night I could go to a high school game. Let's take football. Friday night, go to high school football. Saturday, cover U of I. Sunday, maybe cover the Big Red if they were home, or cover the Cardinals if it was during the season. I mean, I was fortunate enough to cover 7 World Series with the Cardinals.
Wow.
And cover Illinois football, cover them in the Sugar Bowl against LSU at New Orleans. But still, my biggest joy was covering local sports, high school, college sports, and all the people that I know and I've met, and a lot of them I consider friends.
Yeah. Well, the Metro East is better for your career, Steve. I appreciate it. So, Steve Porter, thanks so much for coming by.
Thank you, Dave. Anytime.
We're
It's
gonna see
always
you.
my pleasure.
We'll see you again. Let's do that end of October.
Okay.
Moving into basketball season. Steve Porter,